This past week, Blake preached from the title, This Mountain Ain't Big Enough. And we're going to be in the text, Zechariah 4, 6 through 10.
Okay, y'all, so right off the bat, as soon as we got into the service, verse 9 really stuck out to me. I'll go ahead and read it for y'all. Zerubbabel's hands have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands will complete it. Then you will know that the Lord of armies has sent me to you. I mean, y'all, it's just mic drop. Like God was speaking right then and there. Like it just stood out to me, right? Something really big I think that we all like lose sight of when we're faced with mountains, right? Is that what God has instilled in us to begin, He'll be sure that we finish it. You know, like we don't have to worry about, oh, once we started moving this mountain, and for a lot of people, once they start climbing a mountain, it's like they don't have the energy or the will to like keep going, right? And it's like, man, I have this big thing in front of me, and I don't think I can do it, right? But that's not how God operates. That's not how He works, right? With God, if He said it's going to be done, there's nothing else in the world that can say like, oh no, you can't do it, because if God said it, that's how it is, you know. So that was really inspiring, and I think just as our mission as a family, right, in ministry, of just spreading the gospel and encouraging others in their walk of faith, like God has put that on us. That's our assignment as a group of people who love Jesus, and it's gonna get done because God said it. So, yeah.
I like that because I think like as leaders who are trying to disciple people, it's hard sometimes to be like, man, is this even like the right place? Or like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, and Blake said something this past Tuesday where he said, if you position yourself behind something God wants, He'll never fail you. And like, God put us in this position for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, we're not here just by like a miracle or something like that. Like, we were supposed to be here. So I think what we all need to do is just stop like questioning God and being like, man, are we even in the right spot? And like trusting Him more, like, and knowing that like he didn't put us here to climb the mountain. He didn't put us here to like move the mountain, literally.
Yeah, I think something that really stood out was Blake talked about how, whenever we are put in certain situations or we make certain decisions, like, and we end up not feeling like God's presence is with us, and then we, end up questioning God and questioning why He put us in this place. In reality, like, we chose that for ourselves without really hearing what God had to say. And we wonder, like, why His presence wasn't there, but His breath wasn't on it to begin with. And so just kind of going off of what you said, like, we are here for a certain reason, and we're here because His breath has put on this place.
Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but I feel like this semester, more than like any semester that I've been a part of this ministry, it has been like drilled into us that like literally your only purpose on earth, your sole purpose on earth is to go and make disciples, And so I think it's just crazy, like especially I guess being like where I am in my life right now and all of the stuff that I have coming up, and then like constantly hearing this, and then constantly our team like just growing bigger. It's like it's nice to see that the fruit of like what we're doing, you know what I mean? Because I think for so long we've been trying so hard and not really seeing anything, or thinking that we're not seeing anything because it's not what we want it to look like, And so seeing like all these little things, like I remember meeting someone the other day, and they had been coming to Mosaic on campus, and I had no idea who they were, and they were like, yeah, like we see you all the time, like we went like our first time, like you talked to us like a year ago, and I was like, I talked to you a year ago, you know what I mean? Like I think that's just so crazy, like seeing like little things like that, and then like still coming and like now being able to have like this friendship with them. It's like it's hard. It's been hard, you know what I mean? It's been hard trying to reach the students of SFA. Like we are not the most amazing school to have like this big massive like college ministry, And so it's nice like meeting these people and getting to do what we do and doing it for him, like that's our sole purpose, you know what I mean? And like knowing that nothing that we do is gonna ever top what he has in store for our ministry.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everything that we are imagining, he has so much more, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And I think like it's super cool because I just started coming like this past year, and even from then to now, like it's so much bigger and like genuine. Like I think we were talking about it the other day about how like this has been going for 6 years. This is year 6, and like we've been like y'all have been sowing and like planning and like building the foundation, and now we're finally starting to see like God's hands on it. And like it's cool because like a shift is actually here. Like we're in the middle of the shift where like the culture's changing. Like we're so big right now specifically on like changing the culture and like setting a tone for what we want and like how we want this thing to be. And like I think that's on us mainly as leaders is like culture always falls back on us, and like seeing how it's changing now is dope because like that goes back to what Blake was talking about. Like it's actually us moving mountains instead of just like I don't know, because like I said, I just got here, but for the past 6 years, maybe Mosaic was just climbing the mountain. You know, like trying to, for not even climbing, but like trying to go around it or trying to go through it, or like looking at the mountain and being like, oh nah, and then turning around. But now, like I feel like the team that we have is so big on like moving the mountain and like seeing God touch people's lives. Like it's been amazing. Like the baptism service, we had 15 people go from death to life. Like that's never been done on this campus before. And like it's awesome to see like we're actually out here moving mountains. It's awesome.
When you were talking about like just the time that it took for Mosaic to get to where it's at now, I mean, we say this all the time, right? It's not God's timing, or it's not our timing, but it's God's timing. And he always does.
Yeah, he always will.
But it's like it's so crazy because a lot of times when we're faced with like a challenge, right, we have that big mountain in front of us, we get so overwhelmed by it and we don't want to wait. Like we're like, oh, I just gotta tackle it, right? I know for me personally, that's a big thing that I struggle with, like just like getting in this mindset where it's like, okay, let me just go for it, you know? Like I just gotta tackle it, get it done, and then it'll be okay. And it's like it's not okay, you know? And it's just, it's a difficult cycle to do, right? When we're not working with God, when we're not doing what God has for us, we're just moving in cycles. And they're not productive cycles. Like, you're just moving in circles and circles, right? But one thing that Blake talked about was putting the same effort that you put into, like, that mindset of, let me just tackle it, right? You just going. You're putting all your time, your effort, your energy, everything into this one thing, and it's like God hasn't blessed that, right? But then on the flip side, it's like, well, am I putting all of my time, my effort, and my energy into something that God has already breathed on? Like that God has said, this is it. This is what I want you to pursue. And like the difference in that is so crazy. And I just think that as a unit, our focus has just been, God, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to move on this campus, right? And I think, like, not to say that we haven't been doing that, but I think because we're approaching it, like, with that in mind, like, at all times, I think that's just, like, that's where we're going. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we're moving the way we're moving because we're pursuing God in all of it. And, I just thought that was, like, that really stuck out, for sure.
Yeah, I think, whenever, you mentioned, like, you get so caught up in wanting to conquer the mountain as soon as it, is in your path. And I think just as humans, we get so... You hear that? Y'all, it's thunder. It's thundering. Yeah. But, yeah, like, as humans, we get so caught up in things just naturally. I feel like our attention spans can be so short. Sometimes we just take on one too many things, and it just gets to the point where when a mountain does come in our path, like, we get so caught up in, I need to climb this myself. Like, I need to figure this out by myself. that we kind of start to lose who we were before we got to that mountain and before we started climbing. I know personally I'm a very anxious person, and it does come out whenever I am in the process of climbing a mountain, because I'll admit I do climb mountains. And I find myself getting more and more anxious, getting more thoughts from Satan whenever I've been climbing for a long time, because I'm so focused on climbing rather than giving it to God and spending time in His Word, and just surrendering it in prayer. And so I just think it's so important that we just remember that we were created to move mountains. We weren't created to climb them. But also that our first instinct needs to be surrendering that mountain to God, and not us climbing it. So in Matthew 6, verse 25, it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing?" And then all the way down in verse 34, it says, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." That verse really just means a lot, just because, like I said, I do struggle with anxious thoughts. And so I think it's just a really good reminder that, we can only take it one day at a time. God already knows what's going to happen the following day. He already has His hand over it. And so we really just have to lean in on that and trust that. Yeah.
Okay, Blake said, like, when you pray it, you need to believe it. And I think that's where I struggle the most, because, like, I'm like, yeah, okay, I know that everybody says that when I'm going through something, when I'm about to climb a mountain, I got to put it down at His feet and I got to pray for it. I'm like, okay, got it. And I do that. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting up and I'm trying to fix it myself again. It's like, no, you have to believe that He's going to do what He said He's going to do. You know what I mean? Like, you're praying for it. Okay, now it's in His hands and He's going to take care of the rest. Because I think I'm like, okay, I'm just going to create this routine and I'm going to go in this cycle and I'm going to say, okay, get on my knees. I'm going to pray about it. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little worship song, or I'm going to watch a sermon. And it's like, you do all these things, but then you get up and you can act like you didn't just do it, and you continue to try to fix it yourself. And so I feel like that's like a cycle that I have myself in. And so, like, hearing, like, no, like, He has given us the authority to, like, move these mountains. He's given us the authority to, like, believe what He says and conquer anything that is in our way because of Him, And so, like, having that reminder, like, on Tuesday was really good, especially because I feel like everybody's lives are so crazy right now. And so being able to hear that and, like, have, like, other people kind of, like, resonate with it, like, everybody around us, because the vibe on Tuesday was totally different than anything we've ever had. Like, everybody was into it, And so, like, seeing that everybody was into it just as much as I was and getting what I was getting out of it, I was like, right, okay, so we're definitely all the same on the inside. Like, that's crazy,
For sure. And I think, like, what you said, like, whenever we get into a crazy season where it's like, right, especially right now, like, midterms are happening, seasons are changing, like, it's a holiday. As it's like the Christian way, I guess, to be like, I'm going to put it down at His feet. And then, like you said, watch a sermon or get in my Bible more, and then go right back to what we were doing. And I'm, like, super guilty of that, where I'll be like, okay, like, relationships or, like, football, or I'm just like, okay, I'm going to give it up to you, and, like, whatever you want to do. But then, like you said, I found myself bringing it back to myself. And Pastor Blake, I'll call him Pastor Blake. I'll put some respect on his name, just a little bit. I got you, bro. I got you. If you watch this, Blake, Pastor Blake, you my dog. No, but Pastor Blake was saying that this happens because we want that, or because let me see, we miss that because we want this, and that caught me. I was like, oh man, like that's me. Like that's literally my life. Where it's like, okay, I'm so focused on this when God wants that for me. And that goes back to like God's breath being on it, and us. I feel like as people, it's so easy for us to be like, okay, this is what we want, or like this is how I want my life to go, and God's looking down like, bro, you a fool, like straight up, like that's not what I got for you. Like if you were to know what my breath is on, it's 100 times what your breath is on. So I think like being able to focus more in on this instead of that would help us so much more, and giving it up to Christ, and like finally making him the center of our life. And also how you're saying the environment Tuesday night was insane. Like I think I told y'all like it was my favorite mosaic on campus that I've been to, and it was cool because it was like in a different space too. Like it wasn't in the theater like normal, and we had an amazing Dawson and them are like out of this world. They're out of this world. They're out of this world, and it's like it's so good. And I think everybody else was on the same wavelength, like you said. And it's also so cool just to be like, okay, I'm in this room with the Spirit, with people who are going through the same thing as me and like facing the same tribulations as me. And it's like we are just humans, and we are all like going through. We're all college students. Like we're all literally college students, and it's so cool to see that and how we're like have a chance to bring that together. And I think like it's really cool just to see how God is moving, like I said, on this campus.
I saw a quote kind of recently, and I think it was honestly on TikTok. I don't know, but it said it was this guy, and he was doing like one of those like 30-second devotionals or something, and he said that he was just kind of talking about kind of what you were saying about how we kind of do things because like we want it and we made that choice rather than God. And he said sometimes we think like, why isn't God doing these certain things when we already decided what God was going to say like for him? And I think that happens so often with us because again, kind of going back to like what y'all were saying about how, we are so open and we're like, oh yeah, I prayed about this. I surrendered this to God yesterday. Like everything is sunshine and rainbows. But then the next day we're right back to the same routine of like, why God, why God, why God? But it all comes down to us already deciding what God would say to us. And I feel like personally, I go through cycles of, kind of struggling with prayer just because I'm like, I already know what he's going to say. Like, he already knows what I'm thinking. He knows what I'm going to say in my prayer, and I already know what he's going to say. So, like, kind of what's the point? But when it comes down to it, like, we have not the slightest idea of what he's going to say. We have no idea what his plan is for our life. And, when it comes to prayer, like, he just wants a conversation with us. Like, he just wants to talk to us. He wants to let us know that, like, he's there. And so when it comes down to it, like, even if we think we know what God's going to say, and even if we think that, he already knows what I'm going to pray about, like, it's still just so crucial to actually do the act of surrendering it to God. And like you were saying, like actually believe it, actually put that into practice. So yeah, that was something that kind of really stood out to me recently.
Something that like kind of clicked with like what everyone was saying with cycles or whatever is something my dad told me a while ago, and it's basically how like we change our position without changing our perspective. And the different, like just as believers, right, our position may not look necessarily wrong, but in the instances that y'all said, like the position is, okay, I'm gonna lay it at your feet, right, I'm gonna listen to this worship song, or I'm gonna watch this sermon, right, but you're not changing the perspective from within. That's like, I have to actually believe you. I have
Right.
to actually trust you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to actually have faith. And Blake preached this a little bit ago, but he said that faith was letting what God has said determine how I feel, not my situation, right? So not only knowing those truths that God has spoken over you and over your situations in life, but like fully accepting that like as a part of you and as a part of your
Right.
thought process and your perspective, not taking the perspective that, oh, okay, let me go through this routine so I can get this done,
Yeah.
and then end up in the same spot that you started at. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, that was like really, was like
Yeah.
changing that position and not the perspective. You're not gonna get anywhere.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want to go?
No,
Are you sure?
you got it.
Should I let her go?
Yeah.
You can go.
Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say, like, kind of like going off of like what everybody's kind of saying too, like the whole. Okay, now I like lost my train of thought because of you.
I'm sorry.
I had it exactly what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I think going in with like the cycles thing, like obviously every one of us have cycles like of our own that are healthy, not healthy, toxic, whatever. But I think also like getting in a cycle as a ministry, because I know we talked about this like in one of our meetings a while ago, like saying like we're getting too comfortable, we're getting snappy with each other, we're starting drama, we're gossiping, and it's like we get in those cycles too. Like it's so crazy how the devil and the enemy will just creep in and just like do little tiny things. Like when we were trying to film that video, oh dude. That was such drama for no reason. For no reason.
Right after we had that talk.
Right after we had that talk too, you know what I mean? And so it's like the enemy loves to do those little things too. And I think it goes back to like Blake said this, I think Sunday. Pastor Blake said this.
Yeah.
Pastor Blake said this, I think Sunday. He said, "Are we building his kingdom or are we building ours with a banner with Jesus' name on it?" You know what I mean? So I think when we get into those like cycles of us like not really like trying to be a ministry together, but doing it ourselves and like, you know, not really like listening to others, like we get into that like, yeah, this is my kingdom and I just have Jesus' name on the front of it. You know what I mean? And it's like we start thinking that all of this is because of us. And we start thinking that like, no, people are coming only because of me. People are talking in group because of me, when it's like, no, you're just a vessel. Like you're literally just there as like to tell someone about it, you know? Like this is not you and this is not your ministry. Like this is Jesus's house and it is growing and it is getting bigger and people are coming and people are experiencing him in a different way, not because of you, because of him, you know? And so I think that's like such a big part in like the root of like cycles and problems that happen within like our family and like within this ministry and our team is like we just get so caught up in thinking that it's all about us and that we're the reason this is happening, you know? And so I know I've had to like kind of like step back this semester because I have a class on Mosaic on campus nights, but I've had to step back and kind of like release like the reins. I've had to like release the reins a little bit and like kind of let other people do some stuff. And I know that's been super.
That's God. He like,
Bro.
I need to stop.
Stop.
It's facts.
Yeah, and so like I've had to like release the reins a little bit and like actually like trust that I don't know everything and that I can't do everything, you know? Because I started being like, I mean, I remember at the beginning of the semester, I was so bitter and I was so mad because I was like, this is my last semester and I don't even get to be there the full time, you know? And it's like somehow every single time I've gotten out of class early, I've been there for the entire thing or I've been 10 minutes late, like I've gotten good pictures every time and other people have been taking pics, and it's like it's just so crazy that like when you actually take a step back and you believe that he's gonna do what he's gonna do,
He does it.
you're fine. Like you're literally fine. Such drama.
Such
You know what I mean?
Such drama. Such drama. Drama. I think that's the word of the semester.
bro.
Drama.
Drama. And
Yeah.
y'all got it from me, but that's fine.
But that was drama right
But you're
there.
copyright.
Look, that's her
Yeah,
that's her being like
yeah.
it was because of me.
Yeah, it was because of me.
Okay, that's completely different.
Oh, okay. No, but yeah, I love what you just said because I think it's so easy for us, like you said, to be like, no, that's us. Like it's literally all because of us. And half the time, whenever we think it's us, it's not like the movement that we're behind isn't even moving as good as we think it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then whenever we finally give it up to God, is whenever things start to move. And I liked what Pastor Blake said. He said that maybe you just need to let go of what you have and let go of it for long enough to see if God catches it.
Yeah.
And then if God catches it, then that's whenever you know, okay, maybe I am moving right, or maybe like this is what He breathed on, or something along those lines of just knowing that we are moving the way that God would want us to move, and not the way that ourselves would want to move, or even the way that the devil wants to move. Because like we've said this before, but if God is real, then the devil is just as real as God is, if not more real. You know what I mean? And that's crazy to say, but it's true because he just looks for ways to attack, and especially when things are high and like going good, and like we literally just this past week was crazy. So last Tuesday we baptized 15 people, and then the next Tuesday we're double booked, and like don't even know if we have a room to do Mosaic on campus, or like there's another thing going on in the student center. Like that's not coincidental. You know what I mean? And like I think it's up for us to see the attacks and just be like, okay, he's attacking us, but God has another way for us to move. Or like God is gonna find a way for it to happen. Like you said, like you were mad because you had a class on Tuesday, but you're always there, either 10 minutes behind, or like, but you God finds a way for you to be there because He knows like it's important. And like I think it's time for us to know that like if God spoke it in us to happen, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen because that's what He has for us, and like that's what His plan is for us. And like if we stand behind it, nothing's gonna change that. Like if God is for you, nothing is gonna change you or stop you. You know what I mean? So
When you were talking about, hold on, it's about to leave me. No.
come back.
Okay.
It's back.
Lock
So,
in.
had to lock in, y'all. Trust, right? So you were just talking about how like the enemy, right? He just attacks all the time, right? We're doing really good. Not only is it important for us as leaders of like a college ministry and just in the position that we are in, but just as believers in general, for all believers, it's so important, and the Bible talks about this, to stay vigilant in your faith, right?
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
feeding your spirit, right? Because the minute you just kind of ease off just a little bit, like the devil is waiting for you to slip up.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
He
he-
like that.
Yeah, he watching.
It's coming. It's coming.
He looking around the corner like, okay, when is she gonna forget to do this, or when is she gonna just stop doing this or fall out of this this good routine that she's done, right, and she's stuck with. What if she just gets real tired that one night and she forgets to do this, right? Oh, let me just sprinkle in a little bit of, and it's like,
Some doubt.
right,
Just a little doubt.
a little anxiety,
Like
yeah,
Depression.
literally, and it's like it's so important for us to just always be seeking God, always be seeking His presence, because He's there for us, right? And He's there to fulfill. Like we can't ever, what's the word? We're not gonna be hungry with God. You know what I'm saying? Like He's gonna fulfill us every time. We have to be the ones to go get it, and it's so crazy because I think we all saw it, that sermon that Pastor Blake sent us, right, about culture and whatnot, about how a lot of times what God has for us, like we're waiting on God to move in our lives, but He's waiting for us to get up, right, and get in position. Yeah, because like He's not gonna sit there. He's not gonna just go up and help someone who's seated and can't, or if you're seated, right, and you can walk and you can move and you're just being lazy, God's not gonna go up to you and be like, oh, here you go, right? Like everybody wants to say, oh, I'm waiting on God. What if God is waiting on you? Right, you know what I'm saying? And while you're sitting there, sometimes being lazy or you're just tired and it's like you're just sitting there waiting. It's like that's when the enemy is going to try and get you the most, right? So you getting up and you reading your word, you praying, you talking to God, making Him a part of your day every day, at as many times as you can in a day, right? Pray without ceasing. Like that's how you fulfill yourself. That's how you stay on top of your game. Because in the enemy, there's no room for him to try and like It's like you sprinkle up. I already got all the seasoning. You know, I don't need all of that. The food is done. The
Yeah.
food is cooked. You feel me?
Yeah.
Got the whole tray.
Literally, like we don't need all that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know why I took this. Actually, forgot what I was about to say. It's like mid-pass. I'm like, yes, I think that is so good, especially since like Blake said this. Pastor Blake said this a long time ago. It is so weird to say.
Because we see him all the time. We're just like,
Blake. Anyway,
Pastor
Pastor Blake said this like a while back. Like, you're only gonna be able to like differentiate like the Lord's voice if you're actually in the Word and you're constantly talking to Him. You know what I mean? And so like being able to be in the Word and like praying without ceasing and like doing that every single day. And like I think people mix up like spending time with God being like you have to sit down and you have to pray for an hour. It's like no, spend time with God anytime you can. Like I know I'm constantly in the car being like, okay, Jesus, I'm so mad right now. You know what I mean? Like you could spend time with Him anywhere, you know? And so being able to do that when the enemy comes and tries to like sprinkle something in, you'll be able to know instantly like that has no place here, you know? And going back to what I said, like He gives you that authority to be like, bye. Like I don't know why you're here. I don't know why you're trying to sprinkle stuff over my life that's not supposed to be there. I don't know why you're trying to sprinkle stuff over our ministry that's not supposed to be here. Like the people that are coming to Mosaic on campus, like they are gonna know that they're loved here, and the enemy is gonna have no place in the movie theater, in the ballroom. Like he's gonna have no place in there because they are gonna know that we as a team and we as a church and we as a ministry are gonna continue to be in our Word, and we're gonna continue to love on them, and we're gonna continue to listen to His voice first over anything, you know? And so I think that is such a cool part, and something that definitely drew me to Mosaic is like it's for everybody. You know, we've heard that a million times. Like we are a church that's for everyone, you know? Like you're going out every weekend, you are not doing things you're supposed to do, you're mixed in the wrong crowd. Okay, come, you know? We're constantly inviting every single person that we know. Like we had a mom at Mosaic on campus. Like that is so sick. Like I know in my heart, like I was like, man, like what if we were the only, you know, organization or like church that like let her bring her son, you know? And it's like we want, like I want to stand on that and just be like, we're for everybody. We're going to be an organization. We're going to be a ministry that's going to be in the Word, and we're going to know that He's before us and we're just vessels for Him, you know? And just constantly in prayer for everybody that walks through those doors. And I don't know if like anybody watches like our actual vlogs or anything, but like seeing that like our team, like it tears me up on like setup nights when we're sitting there and we're praying over every seat. I'm like, God, please let this person experience you tonight. Like let them like hear your voice and let their hearts like grow soft for you. And so I think it's just cool seeing like all the intricate pieces behind what we do, you know, and like how we want to make this for a place for everybody.
And I think like that's the culture. Again, literally, like it's the biggest thing that we're gunning for, because like without culture, we're nothing. And it's like we're in that video that Blake sent us today. He was talking about not policing culture, but progressing culture. And like I think that's where we're at right now. That we're building a culture of like leaders that are constantly in the Word and like constantly talking to God and worshiping God. Like, bro, me, Jalen, and Blake just started a Bible plan called The Shred. The whole Bible, 30 days. Ridiculous. I read the whole Bible, 30 days.
Get out.
I read 42 chapters last night. I was like, bruh. But no, like, it's just, like, Blake is so big on, like, we got to be people. If we're not, like, if we're trying to progress culture, we got to be people that are in our Word and, like, know our Word. And, like, we got to be people that are doing what we want people to do. Like, we can't be people being like, hey, like, with our volunteers being like, hey, will you do that? And we don't even do that. And then, because then they look at us like, bro, you want me to do that and you don't even do that? Bye.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I would do. I know that for sure. But, like, I think it's just so important of us that we just continue to progress the culture and continue to invite everybody in. And like you said, like, we're we want to be that church that gives somebody who's giving God their last chance a chance. Because like I know like that's what got me. Like I was on my last chance where I was like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not right, but can I just like I just want to know you, God. And like Mosaic brought me right in, and now look at me, like my life is completely changed from God. And I think like if he changed me, he can change anybody and will change anybody. And I think like that's what we're so big on here at Mosaic is like, dude, just give it a chance. And I think that's what like I've noticed is that when I invite people, it literally takes one chance, like one time for them to pull up, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm hooked." Like
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
like, bro, Kylie, the new girl that takes pictures for us.
Yes.
Blake was talking about like
Sick.
she's dope, bro. She's awesome, and she's like she's been waiting for Tuesday. Like last Tuesday, she was like, "I've been waiting for Tuesday all week." Like, bro, that's awesome. And last Tuesday was her first time, and now she's like, her Tuesday is Mosaic on campus,
Yeah.
or like small groups. Like that's so dope that that's what Mosaic is to people.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of going off about, man, I kind of lost my train of thought. What? Hello? That's so. Yeah, I'm kind of going. Yeah, yeah. No, but like what you were talking about when, spending time with God, like intentional time with God, but more so intentional time like in His Word. I think so often, whether we, are new to reading the Bible or honestly, like if we have read like some of the Bible, I think our first instinct is to just assume that like the Bible is just a list of like things that we have to do or a list of things that like we can't do when in reality like it's God's word, like it's the way that he speaks to us, like, and it's a way that we can, experience miracles that he's done like through other people. There's examples of, what we should do if, we want to experience Christ. There's things in the Bible that we shouldn't do if we want to experience Christ. But, it's been brought up a handful of times in Pastor Blake's sermons and community group or just in conversation about the question of like what are we filling our time with. Genuinely, y'all, I have 8 a.m.s every morning. Every morning. And the rest of the day is just so jam-packed. And so on my 5-minute drive to class in bright and early in the morning, I always listen to worship music. That is like I know that is my set in stone time, like to spend with Christ that day. But then like, I don't know, let's say I get to class 5 minutes early. What do? Open my phone, go on TikTok. Open my phone, go on Pinterest. Open my phone, go on Instagram. Like, why? So that question is so convicting to me because, straight up call myself out. Like, I choose small things over spending time with Christ sometimes, even when it's 5 minutes, like I said. Those 5 minutes could be spent praying. Those 5 minutes could be just simply worshiping even more. Like, and so I think that's a question that us as leaders really need to think about, but just us as people need to think about is what are we filling our time with? Are we filling it with things that will grow our relationship? Are we are we using our time wisely? Because we often complain like, oh man, I have no time in the day. Like, I'm so busy. Like, I can't do this. I can't do that. But in reality, it's like, no, you can. Walking to class, listen to worship music. Praise God. Walking to class, take that time to do a prayer. You don't have to pray with your eyes closed. Like, just finding every chance that you get to spend time with him. Because like you were saying, like any tiny slip up Satan's there.
Yeah.
He's ready. He's locked and loaded. You know? And so, like, I don't know. I just think that that's like personally a really convicting question is what are we spending our time with?
Yeah.
So,
One thing you said earlier, you're talking about like us getting in the word and stuff and just being consistent with reading. I was reading last night in Deuteronomy, and I know Old Testament for real. But it's like a study Bible, right? So like you read some verses and then it kind of summarizes them and like explains them in greater detail at the bottom. And it was talking about like when Moses was talking to the people, right? And he's telling them like, you know what, this is what happened. This is what y'all been through. This is what y'all did. You know, some of y'all gonna go over here. I'm not going with y'all. God said I can't. And in that, like in the explanation at the bottom, it was like you can't lead others where you're not also going. You know, and so like just I think anybody in Christ can be a leader. You know what I mean? Because like for anybody, you can be the person that they know their word a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to have a label. You know, it's a lifestyle, not just a position per se. Right. And as people who are like reading, right, we're not going to be able to move forward in our faith and take people with us if we're not taking that first step, you know? And so like by reading the word and by staying, you know, connected and really just in it, it's like then you're able, like then you have the authority, right? Then you're in the position where you're like, yeah, I know where God is. I know where God's taking me, right? But I know that I got to follow him so I can encourage the people behind me to do the same thing, you know?
absolutely.
But yeah, that really stuck out to me or whatever because like Moses, he couldn't go with them, right? Because God said like, no, you know, you didn't want to do what I wanted you to do over here. You're not going to get to go over here.
That's good.
And he had to accept that, you know? He can't tell y'all he's on this side of the mountain, y'all down there with the milk and honey and whatnot. He can't be like, y'all turn right, you know what I'm saying? That's not how that works. You feel me? Like he has to be there with you. He has to be there with you.
Yeah.
It is.
We're like,
It
bro,
is.
why are you not? Like that's how we were like, God, lead me, and then we expect him to be like, all right, bet, take 5 steps, and then turn left, and then
Right.
take like 10, 15 more
Yeah,
steps, and
yeah.
then go right, and boom, your treasure's right there.
Yeah.
Like that's not how God works. Like God works in different ways for everybody, different seasons, different time, and like it's so hard for us to. That's why I think Christianity, or not even Christianity, but like following God is so hard because we don't have control of it, and like we're people who, no matter who you are, like you like to have control of your life. Like it's your life. So like giving your life to God is actually like scary for some
Yeah.
people because they don't
Like,
know. We're like, whoa, somebody else is controlling me. But God's like, come on, bro. Like, just give it to me and watch this.
Yeah.
And then he's like, bro, literally, he's like, you have no idea. You look so dumb right now. He's like, look at you. Your fit looks good, but you look so dumb right now.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know what you're doing. But then you give it to God, and he's like, watch this.
Yeah.
And then just steps back and like does the unthinkable.
Yeah.
And like that's what I think people need to understand and need to know that like when you give your life to God, he does the unthinkable and will change your life in ways that you don't even like you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So I think like that's what we're seeing in Mosaic is a bunch of people being like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna give my life to Christ. And yeah, yeah. Like and I think that's what people they're like and I know like some yeah, right. We're like, bro, I swear, I don't like we don't bite. Like we're chill. And I think like that's what a bunch of people who like I don't even want to come, like it like y'all are weird. Like, nah, bro. We're really just like cool people who just like yeah, like I swear I'm chill. I swear we're chill. We're chill. But no, like that's so true that you said that because like a bunch of people are like I don't want to come, like it's weird. But like bro, we're just normal people who just love Jesus. We just love him. We love you, Jesus. But no, yeah, I think that's something that people need to understand is like when you give your life to Jesus, he will change your life in ways that you can't even imagine.
Yeah. I gotta head out.
Oh, you gotta go?
Yeah.
Okay. Tylen gotta leave,
I
y'all.
have to leave, y'all.
Let's just wrap it up. Let's just wrap it up. Well,
I think that was good.
that was great.
That was really good.
That was
Y'all
great.
had some good points.
We had new faces on. It was amazing. But that's gonna do it. No, I know, but now you're here. Look at it.
Don't get
Amazing.
guys.
Amazing. God did. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 4 of The Green Room. I hope you enjoyed. Deuces.